Hey guys, it's Vera from Rudy Visuals, and in today's video I'm going to show you how I edit portraits using only Lightroom. So here we have a photo of Annie and I already have it opened in Lightroom. So we're going to jump straight into the editing. So the first thing that we are going to do is just fix the exposure, because as you can see the image is a little bit underexposed. So I'm just going to bring the exposure up. We're going to bring up the shadow so we can get some of the detail out from her hair. We're also going to crush the blacks just to give the image a bit more contrast. You can turn on these little triangles here to help you watch out for areas that are completely black and areas that are completely white. So you don't want to crush the blacks too much. You don't have to completely remove the blue patches, but the less the better. We're also going to bring down the highlights so we can bring back some of that texture from the jumper, from the sleeve over here, which looks a little bit overexposed. And we're going to bring up the whites just to give it a little bit of contrast. So next we are going to straighten the image because it's really bugging me how the background is not straight. I like to keep everything nice and straight because it just looks so much more natural. So we can turn off these little warnings now and we can jump into cleaning up the image, which we are going to start with just cleaning the skin. You can very easily clean the skin in Lightroom using the healing tool. You can just use a bit of a feather, and let's make this smaller. So you can just go around cleaning up any small bits. Make sure that the area Lightroom is sampling from is a clean area. Otherwise you're just going to be duplicating blemishes. So this tool is very nice and simple to use to clean up a photo really quickly, but it's not that great because you do lose texture around the patch due to the feathering. So overall you're going to get a much softer looking image with less detail in it. So I wouldn't recommend this for professional use, but if you're just going to quickly edit an image for Instagram, or it's just for your own use, then I would strongly recommend it to you because it's just so simple. It's a lot easier and faster than doing it in Photoshop, which requires you to set up a frequency separation. So I'm just gonna try and really quickly clean up any blemishes. All right, so here we have the face. It's a little bit cleaner now, but you can see that it's very patchy and you do get these little round circles everywhere. And that's what it looks like before and after. So now to get rid of this patchiness, I'm just going to go into the radial filter. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. And in the radial filter panel, you notice that you have this little tab called effects. So here you have these all these presets for all these possible effects that you might want to do. I use the Soften Skin Light because it's the newer version that uses the texture slider as well as the clarity slider. The previous versions, Soften Skin only use the clarity slider, but I find that the Soften Skin Light is a little bit more natural looking. So I'm just going to add a radial filter on Annie's face and center it. And as you've probably noticed, everything has gone very soft, including the hair. And to fix that, you just have to scroll down, go into the range mask, select color, and we are just going to sample the color from Annie's face. And as you can see, that has adjusted the mask so that it's no longer on the hair, and you can see that the eyes are still sharp, the lips, and it's only selecting her skin color. So before the skin was quite patchy and you can see all the circles from the healing tool. And after we added the radial filter, you can see that it's kind of been blurred. Again, this is not a perfect technique because it does take away texture and it does make your image look softer. But if it's a quick edit for Instagram, then it's perfectly fine. Next, we are going to go into adjustment brush. And I'm going to zoom in on Annie's face. So with the adjustment brush, you have the same thing, a panel called effects, and you can pick different effects that you may want to do. And we're going to use Iris Enhance, which you literally just color over the eyes with. If you want a little preview of what you are selecting, you can always press this button. And you can see that this is making the irises pop out a little bit more. It's making them brighter and adding a little bit more saturation to the color. What you could also do is up the shadows a little bit, just to make the pupil look a little bit smaller, and I would crush the blacks to make it look a little bit less like it's being exposed more. And you can use the adjustment brush for like any number of effects. You could make the cheeks a little bit more like pink. All right, so that's the face done. We're going to move it onto the rest of the image. So now we can start color grading, which basically means that we can start just playing around with the colors and seeing what we can come up with, or just throw in a preset. What I like to do is just up the vibrance a little bit, because that just evens out the saturation across the image. This image of Annie is looking a little bit flat, so I'm going to add a tiny bit of contrast using the S curve. That's a bit too much now. Tiny bit less. Like this much. So what I like to do first is scroll all the way down to the calibration panel, where you have all these sliders that just basically change the overall tone of particular colors. And I find that just playing around with these, you can get some really cool effects. So I particularly like changing the color of the green primary to a more bluish green. As you can see, it gets rid of that yellowiness from the image. You can see that it just looks a little bit nicer. However, it does make the skin tones look really red, but you can easily fix that by going up to the HSL and changing the hue of the oranges and just adding some of that yellow back in. If you go into luminance, you can increase the luminance of the oranges and reds, and that will make the face stand out a little bit more. And to me, the background is a little bit too bright, so I'm just going to decrease the luminance of the blues. You can see that it has darkened the water. We can also adjust the greens and the aquas. So in the saturation panel, I'm just going to saturate the reds. I'm going to bump up the oranges a little bit, just to give Annie's skin a little bit more color. I'm going to saturate the blues to make the water behind Annie pop a little bit more, and maybe desaturate the greens a little bit. I'm also going to use split toning to add some cool tones to the highlights. This is probably a little bit too strong, and some warm tones to the shadows. And I'm going to then use the slider over here just to bring the saturation down to something more like manageable. Okay, so I think this actually looks pretty good now. I'm just going to crop it in a little bit more, because this little area at the top is slightly annoying me. So I'm just going to get rid of this. And here we have a before and after. Okay guys, so that's how I edit portraits using only Lightroom. I usually also use Photoshop, which I find is a lot more precise for cleaning up the skin and like the rest of the image. But Lightroom just has so many different tools that make photo editing quick and easy, and you can pretty much edit like a portrait in under 10 minutes if you use a preset and just skip all the color grading. But anyway guys, I hope that you found this video useful. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below and I'll answer it. And if you like this video, please give us a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Don't forget to follow us on our Instagram and Facebook to see more of our work. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye bye.